Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Thursday, the 7th day of December, year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Purple tip of the day. Get a twofer today. Two for one. First of all, start small. Get your basic field gear together, your bug out, bug home bag. Simple. Doesn't take a whole lot of time or a whole lot of money. Get it together, keep it with you. If you have a motor vehicle, keep it in your motor vehicle so you can get home if the vehicle stops running due to EMP. The second proper tip of the day, store salt. If you live 100 miles or more from an ocean and there's a long-term crisis, salt will become very, very valuable. Listen carefully. Human beings cannot live without salt. This is a true statement. Human beings cannot live without salt. Right now, salt is very inexpensive. You can buy 25-pound bags, very cheap. Get the iodized salt. We learned decades ago that lack of iodine in people's diets was making them sick. You can buy 1-pound containers. You can buy 25-pound bags. I've got about a quarter ton stored up personally for barter purposes in the future. I keep the Himalayan pink sea salt for myself and my family's use. So that's your prepper tip of the day, a twofer. I'm very concerned about the situation with North Korea. People I know and respect and trust share my concern. I just recently ordered 3 bottles of potassium iodide, shipping one to my daughter's family up in Seattle, one to my mother-in-law, and one to keep here at my home. Potassium iodide is a dietary supplement that if you are thinking you might be exposed to radiation, you consume this. It goes to your thyroid and helps prevent the thyroid from absorbing radiation because it's already absorbed the potassium iodide. That's a good thing. Let's go back to salt a little bit. This is pretty important. Salt may be one of the most ideal long-term storage things that you could ever want to keep, assuming you live more than 100 miles from an ocean, because ocean water can be easily turned into sea salt very quickly and inexpensively. That's why I say 100 miles or more from an ocean. And people figure it out pretty quick and start making sea salt for personal use and barter. Salt. Cold won't bother it. Heat won't bother it. Insects won't bother it. Right now, the thieves won't bother it. In the future, of course, that would change. Why would somebody steal something that is so cheap? You're not gonna take a 50-pound bag of salt to the local pawn shop and get any money for it. They'll look at you like you got 2 heads. So yes, store up a lot of salt. A quarter ton, 500 pounds. Not that it won't take up that much space. And you've stored up a lot of very valuable product for use in the future. There's been some discussion about the North Korean missile not making re-entry successfully, that it broke up before re-entering into the atmosphere. My response is a big so what? A big so what? They don't need to re-enter the atmosphere. In fact, they'll have better results if they want to harm the most Americans with shooting off one of these missiles. They'll get the most effect by not re-entering the atmosphere and exploding this thing up 100 or 200 miles above the surface of the Earth. That's where they're going to get the most effect with EMP. If it's done in the daytime, people won't know it even went off, because the flash would be blanked out by the sun. Be no noise. There's no You have to have air to transmit noise. You can't transmit noise through a vacuum of space. 200 miles up, there's not enough air to transmit any noise. No blast effect, no radioactive radiation effect. Just a microsecond of electromagnetic pulse that takes out pretty much everything that makes our world work in the way that it does work. I wrote an alert. It's posted at my website. Go to the top of my homepage, thelibertyman.com, the very top, right-hand side, black and red, JR's alert. And let's see here. November 27th, 2017. Click on that. I'm going to read this to you all slowly. This is dated 27th of November. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been discussing the clear and present danger of an EMP, electromagnetic pulse attack, on the United States for a number of years. I've read authoritative books by experts like Dr. Peter Pry, the former head of the now defunct, as of September, by the way, U.S. Commission on EMP. I've interviewed Dr. Pry on my show. I've read his books. Until recently, I felt that the failure of the federal government to protect the national power grid was just another example of an inadvertent result of our very dysfunctional swamp in Washington, D.C. I really did feel that up until recently. However, upon further reflection, I've concluded that the failure to protect the national power grid is by design and with intent. I've recently learned that officials in the Obama administration were actively blocking any possibility of the recommendations of the EMP Commission becoming successful. That report, which is 208 pages, released 2008, is a free download at my website. At, of course, thelibertyman.com. As most of you know, I've been a homicide detective most of my adult life and an intelligence analyst before that. By both education and profession, I'm trained to find evidence, analyze it, and make conclusions based on that evidence. Based on the evidence I've found, I can come to no other conclusion other than the complete failure to protect the national power grid is by design and with intent. The goal being to prepare the USA for a successful invasion by our enemies, that being the Russians, the Chinese, and their allies. With all of that above in mind, here are a couple of unknowns, at least they are not unknown to me. Number one, does President Trump plan to move forward to protect the national power grid? Number two, if so, will he be able to do so in time? Absent having answers to the two above questions, I advocate the following. Number one, prepare for both a grid down scenario and invasion. Number two, pray for God's healing and protection. Now. I know all too well the enormity of what I advocate. I also know that failure to do so could result in serious injury or death. My recommendation is to become part of a hobby farm that's self-sufficient, 100 miles or more away from a major city and 800 feet plus above current sea level, holds true. I end with saying, may God bless him and save America. You have a question or comment, give us a call at 800-313-9443. I talk to Tim Spencer pretty much 7 days a week, occasionally skip a day. We've become very good friends over the years. He's a very bright man. He's had severe health issues most of his adult life, going back to his early 20s, when he was injured twice on two different U.S. Navy submarines. Despite that, despite the radiation poisoning that he was subjected to 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 months, which destroyed his pancreas, making him a diabetic, leading to other health issues. Despite his breaking his back on another submarine tour, which led to multiple surgeries, and taking every pain medication known to mankind for the last 30 years up until 7 years ago when he started using energy cleaner. Despite those things, he moved his family to the Missouri Ozarks, built himself a nice home, has a hobby farm, a beautiful family, beautiful grandchildren, and a positive attitude. He has a weekly radio show that I encourage you to listen to here on Republic Broadcasting, 10 a.m. till noon Central Time at Republic Broadcasting. His website is ruralsurvival.info, ruralsurvival.info. Literally hundreds of articles there that will help you gain the knowledge you need to be on and be successful at your hobby farm. He also has some interesting products for sale. One of them, the main one being the flash drives that he offers. More than 1,000, I believe it's more than 1,200 books and other publications on a flash drive. Now you may say, John, what about EMP? Well, here's the deal. You need to protect the flash drive from EMP and flash and protect some kind of electronic equipment to read it on, obviously. Protect it from EMP. And I'm learning more and more about EMP all the time, talking to bona fide electronic engineers like my friend Tom Berryhill, who will be with us at the bottom of the hour. But if you do protect the flash drive and the electronic device to read it on, which can be a tablet, by the way, it doesn't have to be a computer, you've got quite a home library there. Now, the index for the flash drive is there at Tim's website. You can read it. It's about 70 pages, I believe, listing all the books and publications. You'll find dozens that you'll just be tickled pink to have in your private personal library. I know I'm glad I got mine. Very glad. The first dozen publications have to do with canning food. Lots of great information there. Life-saving information, by the way. So check out the flash drive at Tim's website. Be a great gift for somebody. Got the holiday season coming up. He tries to keep 10 or 15 in stock all the time. And check that out. I think you'll be very glad you did. The fires in Metro Los Angeles area and north are destroying tens of millions of dollars of property, people's homes, people's personal possessions, family photographs and documents that can't be replaced. If you know somebody who lives in that area, help them out any way you can. Quite frankly, with winds being recorded at 80 miles an hour, these fires are moving very fast. And these people need our prayers out there, no doubt. If you live anywhere near those fires, I would advise you to collect up family heirlooms, family photographs, documents, and be prepared to bug out well in advance of the fire getting to your home. You don't want to be. I saw video this morning of the interstate highway there. I think it was 405 with traffic going one way, moving along quite well, and the other direction completely stopped. Just thousands of cars just stopped. It was nighttime. You don't want to be put in that position. You really don't. So, getting back to North Korea, I was watching a former lieutenant colonel of the U.S. Army. He has a YouTube channel that is called The Powder Expositor, P-O-T-T-E-R, Expositor. And he repeats something I've been hearing a lot, is that North Korea is being aided and abetted by the CIA. I have not personally seen evidence of that. The evidence I am aware of is Red China helping the North Koreans. Now, I've known about that for decades, and the evidence is abundant. Both Red China and Russia, by the way. North Korea has been a client state of Communist China for decades, going back to before the Korean War. And of course, we all know that the Communist Chinese troops came across the river to attack the Americans. It was all wars are brutal and barbaric, and this was no exception. The Americans that went into that war were not properly equipped or prepared to deal with that harsh winter that they faced. The World War II winter gear that they had, which was really completely inadequate and not well suited for that war, and a lot of things. I mean, it was sometimes the Korean War is sometimes called the Forgotten War. At the time, they were attempting to call it a police action. I don't know why. It was an attempt to be politically correct, I guess. Running a country is a family business for the family that runs it. The grandson of the man who started the country is now running it. It is a clear and present danger. I don't want to dwell too much on who is making it happen behind the scenes. Is it the CIA? I don't know. I haven't seen the evidence. Maybe it is. Is Red China involved? Of course Red China is involved. There is plenty of evidence of that. Does it matter? Not really. What matters is North Korea does possess both nuclear weapons and delivery system. Keeping in mind the former director of the CIA, Mr. Woolsey, told us all in September that the 2 satellites that govern the United States twice a day, every 12 hours, on a polar orbit, have nuclear weapons on them. So why get all caught up in whether ballistic missiles can reach us or not, when twice a day, every 12 hours, we have not 1 but 2 satellites equipped with nuclear devices going over the American homeland here? This is pretty serious stuff. Here's our break. Call number is 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 7th day of December. I would be remiss if I did not mention the day that lived in infamy, the day that lives in infamy. December 7th, 1941, Japanese Imperial Navy attacked the United States Naval Base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. It was not a surprise attack, not a surprise to Franklin Roosevelt anyway. Franklin Roosevelt knew the attack was coming. Winston Churchill got the information. gave that information to Joe Kennedy, the father of John Kennedy, the ambassador to England, by the way. I guess if you sell enough illegal whiskey, you get to be the ambassador to England. But that's a different story. And Ambassador Joe Kennedy hand-carried that message from Winston Churchill to Franklin Roosevelt, giving the information on the attack on Pearl Harbor. Franklin Roosevelt was Secretary of the Navy during World War I. Franklin Roosevelt knew very intimately the true nature of naval warships, naval battles, naval warfare. His goal was to get us involved in World War II. That's what he wanted. World War II had been going on already since 1939. So you got 1939, 1940, all of 1941. Basically 3 years, World War II had already been going on. The United States did not want to get in. We just had finished a war only 20-something years before, a little more than 20 years. The United States did not want to get involved in another war. Let the Europeans and the Asians have their wars. We didn't need it. We had no reason to be involved in that war, those wars. But Franklin Roosevelt and the international banking cartel wanted us in that war. And what better way to do that than a surprise attack on a naval base on a Sunday morning? The lowest level of alert, obviously, on a Sunday morning in the tropical paradise of Hawaii. Franklin Roosevelt did everything he could to make sure that it was a successful attack. He ordered all the fighter aircraft parked in circles with the engines facing inward. In case you don't know, airplanes don't have reverse, they can only go forward. That was true in 1941, it's true in 2017. Aircraft don't have reverse, they can only go forward under their own power. He made sure that the new warships, the aircraft carriers, were safely away from Pearl Harbor, couldn't be harmed, and what was left behind were the older, less necessary warships, old battleships that didn't have as much functionality, didn't have as much importance in modern naval warfare. Left them behind as tempting targets like the battleship Arizona that we've all heard about, and others. Tempting targets. Early on a Sunday morning, December 7th. The admiral in charge of Pearl Harbor requested a court-martial. He wanted a court-martial. He wanted to be court-martialed. What the court-martial would have done would have given him something he didn't have, the power of subpoena, the power to take depositions. He didn't have that unless he was court-martialed. He wanted to be court-martialed to clear his name and to establish what really happened. December 7th, 1941. Of course, he never got his court-martial. And basically his career was toast. He was finished. He was disgraced because of the consequences of that morning. Didn't have to happen. We had no business being in World War II. You may say, what about that horrible person, Adolf Hitler? My response is, how about our horrible ally, Joe Stalin, who murdered 3 to 4 times as many people as Adolf Hitler murdered? Yeah, how about that? Our ally, who murdered 3 to 4 times the number of people murdered by Adolf Hitler's armies. No, we had no business being on either side of that war. Both sides were evil. Our ally was incrementally 200 to 300 times more evil than our enemy, Adolf Hitler. If you measure evil by how many people were murdered, our ally was far worse. Our side, our ally made it our side. The guy that shared champagne with President Roosevelt. our side, was far more evil than the other side if you just measure evil by the number of bodies. How about that? We got a bottom of the hour break. We'll be back with Tom Berryhill, and we'll talk about the energy cleaner. Stay tuned.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Thursday, the 7th day of December. Usually we have Tom Berryhill call, and it looks like we have Tom with us. We take 24 minutes a week to talk about a marvelous product that's literally, not figuratively, literally saving people's lives. I'm at a point now that year number 8, selling this marvelous product, and of course, which of course I use every night myself, and my darling wife, Mary Ann, Dr. Moore, uses it every night when she can. Sometimes she can't. And other members of my family use the energy cleaner as well. A marvelous healing device. We begin these conversations with my friend Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer of energy cleaner, giving us our disclaimer. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. We are not doctors or medical professionals. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or disease. The information discussed today is for your education and entertainment only. If you have a medical condition requiring treatment, you should utilize the services of a medical doctor, chiropractor, or other competent practitioner.
Okay. That said, Tom, I got an interesting email from a listener. Her and her husband have an energy cleaner. They initially thought that the wife needed an energy cleaner, so they just got a twin-size pad to put on their queen-size bed, which was fine, and the wife was getting relief, and the husband thought, well, maybe he needed some relief also. So he started using it and was getting relief. And then they both wanted the twin-size pad. Of course, it doesn't cover up very much of a queen-size bed, so they ended up putting the twin-size pad in the middle of the bed and trying to share it. And now, of course, they've got a queen-size pad on order. So, because they were basically having a tussle over who gets to use the energy cleaner. And but I'm at a point now, Tom, this being year number 8, where I would say about half my orders are repeat customers. A father gets an energy cleaner, for example. This is another example earlier this week. And he's getting great results. His young adult daughter in college had some health issues, so he graciously gave his energy cleaner to his daughter. Now he's ordering a second one for himself. And this is the gift-giving time of year. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, people are pondering and thinking, what can I give this person? I know it's an issue. Some people are more difficult than others. I'm very difficult to find gifts for myself. And the energy cleaner is a marvelous gift, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, it really is, John. And I've given the energy cleaners as gifts many times. So they're very well received, especially with people that have already used them in the past or know somebody that has. If it's somebody that's never tried it before, well, you're going to have to bring them up to speed with a quick education on what it can do for them. So, but it's a great gift idea this time.
It is. We got a caller on hold here, and if you got a question or comment, we're talking about the energy cleaner at 800-313-9443. We've got Tony in North Dakota. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, John and Tom. Just wanted to give you an update on the energy cleaner that I had purchased. A little history of why I purchased it. I had hurt my hip doing some flooring in the summer to the point where I couldn't walk, sit, sleep. And I thought my life was pretty much over because I've got a ranch to take care of here. But and then in September, I got a pain in my back, and that radiated down my right arm, making my right arm useless. And I went to the doctor, and they said, well, you got some arthritis and a pinched nerve, and they gave me some muscle relaxants and a pain pill. And I looked at those pain pills, and I said to myself, do I really want to take these things, or do I want to listen to John and Tom and maybe buy that energy cleaner? So I did, and you sent me some back in October. I don't know if you remember. But when I got that energy cleaner, I was, skeptical, but I put that thing on. The first night I slept with that thing, I had a kind of a metallic taste in my mouth, and I noticed, I can smell things I never smelled before. And in 2 weeks, now I'm a violin player. Losing your right arm ability is devastating. I couldn't play the violin. I couldn't even hardly lift my arm. In 2 weeks, my arm, I could feel nothing. I was back playing the violin again. My hip, which I could hardly walk or sit or sleep, well, now I would say that in a month and, a little over a month and a half or so of using that energy cleaner, I'm 80% gone with that left hip. I can sit, I can sleep, and I tell you, I have never slept like I have slept with that energy cleaner. I don't know if God gave you the secret to that thing, Tom, but if He gave you that secret and you pass it on through John, boy, I'll tell you, I'm thanking you 100 times over. And, John, you could offer a 1-year return, and you ain't getting it back.
I probably should go ahead and make it 90 days at least, don't you think there, Tony?
No, it wouldn't make any difference. You ain't getting it back.
I know.
Well, I just wanted to call in and thank you so very much. Sometime I'll tell you what it did to my daughter who had surgery and to my granddaughter who hurt her knee. It's amazing. I made a little chair out of, you said something about chicken wire. I made a little, what I call a healing chair, and they sat in that, and it did them wonders. Anyway, thank you both very much. I just wanted to quickly jump in here and let you know about that.
Well, Tony, we appreciate that. Don't be a stranger. We really appreciate your calling on.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you. North Dakota. Now, you don't know what winter is till you've been to North Dakota.
Well, it gets cold there.
You don't have a clue what winter is till you've been to North Dakota.
Yeah, it gets awfully cold there.
Baby.
John, I recently shipped 3 energy cleaners to a woman, of all places, about as far north as you can go in the States, Barrow, Alaska. And she told me the day we spoke on the phone, she said they're having a relatively mild day. It was 20 degrees. And the cold weather would be coming in soon. So that's now that place gets very, very cold.
Oh, yeah.
She's helping the native population up there that has issues with pain, and I thought it was really, really nice what that nice lady was setting up for them. And we can talk about, Tony said something about where did this idea come from. I mean, we can. We can,
and it's Tom took the idea from Lee Kroc and basically streamlined the manufacture of it to where it no longer costs $3,000 each, and now $285 shipping included. But go ahead, Tom, and give a summary of how Lee Kroc developed this marvelous device.
Well, the quick story is that Lee, after he got to know me a little bit, I started working with him. He actually told me the whole story, and he said one night, about 2 a.m, he woke up, he was awakened, the whole room was lit up, bright as daylight, no lights were on, but the room was lit, and projected on the wall was information he needed to do. He said an angel was talking to him. Now, this is what the man told me, and
right.
he says, I had no clue why this angel was talking to me and telling me to proceed with this idea. So he said I was writing everything down, and then that woke his wife up, and she asked, what are you doing? He says, an angel's talking to me and telling me to write these notes down and take this information, get it into a written form. And she says, well, why don't you turn on the light so you can see what you're doing? Now, the room was totally illuminated for Lee,
right.
but his wife was in darkness.
Right.
It was very, very interesting hearing the story. So after several years, it finally occurred to me, once I learned a little bit more about Lee, he was very, very wealthy. You wouldn't know it meeting him or talking to him. He was pretty low-key about things, but he owned numerous businesses, and he told me one time it varied a little bit, but around 430 people on his various payrolls. So he had quite a huge payroll that he had to take care of in his various companies. So I told Lee, I said, it's occurred to me that we were drawn together because you needed somebody to help you with this, and you had the financial capabilities to make it happen, to lay the groundwork and get it going, and I had the technical and production capacity here to produce them, and the rest is history. And we started with this in March of 2000. We've been going at it quite a while, but that's how it all started. And the early units were built in the wood boxes, and they were sold for $3,000, and people were lined up, and they were very happy to pay it because of the results they were getting. And the word spread quickly, and people came from all over the world to visit him. Well, Lee died he passed on in March of 2010, and he always told me that if anything happened to him, he was gone. He says, I would hope you would continue on. So we did. And then, John, I had later that year, it was around July of that year, had a chance meeting with you. I hadn't talked to you in a while,
right,
and I bumped into you on a parking lot. And
it was chance to you and I, but in hindsight, it wasn't chance.
No, right. And you said you have time for coffee, and we went down the street to a local restaurant. We sat there and talked for a while, and you asked me, you still working with the energy cleaner? I said, sure. And I said, well, you've got your radio broadcast. You could easily market these things if you wanted to. And you said, well, let's look at it. So I got you a couple of units. You worked on them and checked it out. And then shortly after that, we started, and it took off like a rocket. And then, of course, shortly after that, Tim Spencer came on board. You wanted to help Tim, and he had some major health issues, and you were able to get Tim pointed in the right direction, and it's really, really benefited him. So, and that's what we do for everybody. We try to get the word out the best we can, and we've got these energy cleaner units installed worldwide. They're everywhere.
What happened with you and I, that apparent chance meeting of you and I in a parking lot, in hindsight was not chance. The word is synchronicity. Things happen for a reason. We may not understand it at the time. We may not recognize it at the time. We may not even like it at the time. But things happen for a reason. And now here we are, year number 8, working on this project together, shipping these things to every continent except the Antarctic, with 3,000 people at McMurdo Station counting penguins, taking ice core samples. There's highly likelihood that there's several energy cleaners down there, but they aren't talking. But regardless, it's a fun project, and very gratifying, very humbling to have people let me know that myself and Tom and the energy cleaner have helped save their lives. Our friend Steve Whitman, for example, gives the energy cleaner credit for saving his life, both using the energy cleaner before he was shot 3 times with a .45 and the rapid, excellent recovery afterwards. And that's just one of hundreds of examples. This is a fall season, and the gift-giving season, I find it challenging to stay caught up with orders. My mattress pad supplier, Tom, this is their busy time of year, and I've had orders pending now. This is the 3rd week waiting for mattress pads to be delivered. They will get here, and I will reconfigure them, and I will get them out the door to the Cherryville post office, where you can get all the coffee you want to drink for 75 cents and all-you-can-eat catfish buffet for less than $10 on Friday evenings. But I will get them there and get them shipped out all over the planet, as I always do. So you folks that are waiting, just be patient. I know you want to get your life back ASAP, but I'm a captive audience to the mattress pad supplier. And, of course, Tom, you're doing a yeoman's job of getting energy cleaners manufactured, getting them to me. I hope to be picking up another shipment from you soon, and we can talk privately about that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a new listener and you want, what are these guys talking about? This is radio. There's always new listeners. The energy cleaner is a healing device. It's not a TENS unit. It's not a Rife frequency generator. It's entirely different technology. A black plastic box the size of a cigar box takes 9 D as in Delta, 9 D-cell batteries, no on-off switch, no gauges, no dials, simply one place to plug in one wire, which can be attached to the mattress pads I sell or a homemade pad you make yourself with aluminum screen wire. And that signal goes to every cell in your body. The electrostatic signal goes to every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition. That's how it works. We focus on pain mitigation. You all heard Tony from North Dakota. Pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep, both of which Tony experienced, and both of which you most likely will experience also. I'm going to take Tony's advice, Tom. I'm going to go ahead and extend the warranty to 90 days. That will be some help, I believe, and maybe getting some of these energy cleaner procrastinators to get off the fence, because our experience has been typically 3 days to a week at the most. People start getting relief, don't they, Tom?
Well, that's true, and in many cases, we've had seminars in my local area here, and I'll put those on for people that are interested. And several times, John, we've had people actually get pain relief in less than 1 hour. And I always remember, and I've mentioned before about the lady that came in a wheelchair. She didn't have to be in a wheelchair all the time, but it was just better for her to be in a wheelchair when she was out around town. And so everybody knew this lady, and they knew she wasn't planted there. It wasn't any kind of a scam, because I didn't know any. I knew a few of the people, but I didn't know this woman, and her friends suggested she come to this seminar. So she wanted to try it, so we set up a demo unit and put a pad in her wheelchair, and she sat on that. And, after about, it was maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, she says, I don't have any pain anymore. And she was very, very thrilled. And she purchased the unit right then and there. And I remember when she left that evening, she used the wheelchair kind of like a forklift. She put the energy cleaner in there and put her purse on there and pushed everything out, but she actually walked out of the building. She
walked behind the wheelchair instead of being seated in the wheelchair.
That's correct. And she called me several days later to tell me how much it had helped her. And she says, I don't even take the wheelchair with me anymore when I go out around town. And she was just thrilled. So we hear these kind of stories. Now, John, some people are on pain medications, and they just can't quite get away from it because their pain issues are just really, really bad. And I know Tim Spencer had some issues with that. He was still on some pain meds, and he said the energy cleaner helped quite a bit, but he would occasionally take some medication. But I've had many of these people tell me while they couldn't totally get away from it, they cut down their dosages by like 80%. I remember one gentleman telling me that. He said, I use 80% less medication now, and many days I don't need anything at all. And then, John, you'll always remember the gentleman from Wisconsin that called in about his father-in-law who was in so much pain, all he could do is moan and groan 24 hours a day and sit in his recliner chair. He had pain issues so bad that morphine would not even help. And that man purchased an energy cleaner for his father-in-law, and I remember him calling us about 3 weeks later. He called in.
Hold that thought, Tom. Hold that thought. We got a break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore on Thursday, the 7th of December. Tom, let's finish your story there.
The gentleman in Wisconsin ordered the energy cleaner. I'd say about 3 weeks later, he called your show to give us an update, and he said the first night his father-in-law used that energy cleaner on his reclining chair, his pain went away. And remember now, this was a pain issue that morphine would not take care of. So this man got his life back, and we heard about how he was going around town and visiting and going fishing and just doing everything he wanted to do in the past, but couldn't because of these pain issues. So we hear these types of things. Many times we don't hear anything, John. The people get the unit. We never hear from them again unless they order another one or a friend of theirs calls and wants one just like it. But that's usually what happens. People, they don't want to talk to us. They want to go forward. They got their health back. They want to go forward.
Well,
but it's nice, like Tony called. It was nice that Tony called. We like to hear testimonials from people. It helps quite a bit.
Well, it helps people that are pondering this. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy cleaners are for sale at my website at thelibertyman.com. Check out, we've got the patent application details there. We just gave you a quick overview of how this came to be. But the patent application details are there, and the mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner are listed for sale there. It's a great combination. Most people these days, Tom, they're going ahead and getting a mattress pad at the get-go with the energy cleaner so they can get the maximum relief just as quickly as possible. Keep in mind, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. And, of course, I take PayPal. Now, PayPal is the most secure way to make any payment online, and PayPal now takes payments if you live in the USA. You can spread out that dollar amount over several months if you need to. And I got people sending me checks also. If you want to mail me a check, my address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. And I have a toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Tom, did we pick a postcard last week? I'm trying to refresh my memory.
I believe the last one you picked was a lady in Arizona, I believe, but I never got any indication that it should be shipped out. So, right.
But which Thursday was it? Was that last Thursday or the first Thursday before? You don't know either.
The days roll together, you know. I don't believe. I know we didn't pick one last week. I don't believe.
Okay. Well, let me see here. Let me reach into the envelope and pick one out. And here I got it. Okay. We've got Bruce, area code 928, and he's in Yuma, Arizona. Bruce in Yuma, Arizona. I'll be contacting you, Bruce, let you know that your postcard was picked, and Diane from last week has not got back with me yet. So that's her loss, and maybe Diane will get back with us. Tom, thank you, sir. We'll be talking privately soon.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it. We've got top of the hour break. We'll have open lines. I don't believe Don Kubley's going to call, but he might if he's back from Bangladesh and India and that part of the world. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Jared Moore here, our second hour on Thursday, the 7th of December, a day that will live in infamy. Prepper tip of the day, it's a twofer. First of all, get your basic field together. We sometimes call it a bug out bag, sometimes called a bug home bag. Whatever you call it, doesn't matter. Get it together. And, it's going to be customized for you and your situation. It's going to be different things for different people. Basically, a backpack that will hold some water, some food, maybe a map and compass, leather gloves, something to keep you warm at night if you think you might be sleeping, and things like that. And I'm not going to go into any detail on that. And also, the second part of the twofer today is salt. It may be one of the best, most ideal long-term storage items. If you live 100 miles or more from an ocean, listen carefully, human beings cannot live without salt. They can't. So you need to get a supply of salt, I would say at least a quarter ton. That's 500 pounds. of iodized salt. Sea salt's even better if you want to spend a little bit more money. 50 pounds would probably be more than enough salt for most families, by the way. More than enough to last for many, many years. But it's a great barter item. Cold won't bother it. Heat won't bother it. Insects won't bother it. No, thieves don't want it, at least not right now. They might after a crisis begins, of course. And it's very cheap to buy, easy to store, and so forth. So get yourself a good supply of salt. Okay, I'm very concerned with what's going on with North Korea. Now, the former director of the CIA, Mr. Woolsey, stated publicly in September that the 2 satellites that North Korea has that pass over the United States twice a day or once every 12 hours on a polar orbit are equipped with nuclear devices. Now, we've been warned about this for decades. It was 30 years ago this year, 1987, that the TV miniseries titled America spelled with a K instead of a C, America spelled with a K, was broadcast on ABC. Hugely popular. It starred Chris Christopherson, I can never say his name right, Mariel Hemingway, Sam Neill, Robert Urlich, and a young woman named Lara Boyle in her first major role. I watched it. It was hugely, hugely popular. At the time, it was called the most ambitious American miniseries ever created. It begins 10 years after Russia took over the United States. They don't tell you, and I watched carefully, they do not tell you how America took over Russia. They don't. And it's not for lack of looking. And I did look. I looked carefully. Now, for years, before YouTube came along, it was difficult to get your hands on a copy of that. There were pirate copies on VHS around. I've had one myself in the past, but now it's on YouTube. You scroll down the right side of my home page, you'll find something related to it, which is the answer. The answer to the question, how did Russia take over the United States? And the answer lies in the book. The miniseries was based on a book, the book by the same title, I believe, titled America. My friend Tim Spencer published, he typed it out, basically, the first 3 pages, the prologue to the book, which reveals the secret. How did Russia take over the United States in this novel? The answer is an EMP attack. Seriously, an EMP attack. That's how they did it. Moving forward, there's been other Hollywood depictions, one of the more recent ones being the new version of Red Dawn. Really used the film initially had been written, and it was already finished and ready to be released, with the Red Chinese staging an EMP attack to take over the United States. Well, the Red Chinese, through their economic wherewithal, were able to stop that from being released, and the studio changed all the bad guys from being Communist Chinese to being North Koreans. With the digital technology, they can do that these days. And they did. And the film was released. The new version of Red Dawn came out a couple of years ago. Now, I like both versions. I know people have very strong opinions about liking the first or liking the second. I like both. I think they both stand on their own merit. I don't get too caught up in that, quite frankly. I really don't. So the warnings are out there. It's been said, and I have no reason to doubt it, that there's some kind of foundational spiritual mandate on the part of the New World Order, those who want to destroy us, to give us warnings about what they intend to do. So the warnings are out there. What do they want? I'll tell you what they don't want. Fat, unhealthy, lazy Americans. That's what they don't want, which is how they regard most of us. Obviously, we're not all that way. What do they want? They want what lies between the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachians. That's what they want. They want the most productive agricultural real estate on the planet. That's what they want. And that won't be hurt very bad by EMP attack. Obviously, the farms will be fine where everything's grown. Tractors are going to need to be repaired and replaced. The way that the grain is transported would have to be repaired and replaced. That's all very doable to get their prize, the prize being the agricultural real estate of the United States of America, and of course destroying the American Christian middle class. There's a spiritual aspect to this. Don't fool yourself. There's absolutely a spiritual aspect to this. There's no precedence in world history for the American Christian middle class spending their own money, not government money, not church money, spending their own money to go to the most God-forsaken places on the planet, bring the Word of God, and helping people to get fresh water and get medical attention, get dental attention, build schools, and so forth. There's no precedence for that. Not on the scale it's happened with the American Christian middle class. Other countries have smaller versions of what the United States does. Let's give credit where credit is due, and they do, and God bless them for doing so. Canadians do this, Brits do this, French do this, Germans, Dutch, and so forth. But in terms of sheer numbers of well-meaning people spending their own money, there's nothing even comes close to what American middle-class Christians do to help people in the third world. The spiritual aspect of this is to destroy the American Christian middle class. That's one of the goals. That's a major goal. And we need to survive. We need to send them to their maker. Let them worship Gaia or Lucifer, whoever they want to worship. I don't care. Let them go meet their maker. Well, maybe Allah. Let them meet their maker. There's been coalitions developed, by the way, between the Muslim leadership and the communist leadership in their New World Order to bring down the American Christian middle class, destroy it once and for all, forever. They can't be tolerated. The American Christian middle class cannot be tolerated on the world scene. Men and women who are showing their Christian charity by their works, spending their own money to spread the word of Jesus Christ and do good in the world. It doesn't work very well in Muslim countries, by the way. When Christians reach out to Muslims in goodwill, the Muslims think, oh, they're just doing this to look good on the world stage. They're not really doing this because it's the right thing to do, and not because of what's in their hearts, but they're doing it to make themselves look good. When American GIs want to build a clinic in Afghanistan or Iraq, it's not appreciated by many, if not most of the locals. They do their best to kill the Americans building a clinic and then destroy the clinic itself. So that's the way that is in those Muslim countries. But in most of the rest of the world, the work of the American Christian missionaries is thoroughly appreciated and helps save a lot of innocent lives, bring modern dental care, modern medical care to people, helping them to have clean water, maybe helping the farmers learn some techniques that will improve their yields, their crops. How does that affect you folks listening to me all over the United States, all over the world as far as that goes? You need to take charge of your own preparedness. Take responsibility for the safety and well-being of the people you care about. That's what I do. That's what I hope you're doing. I know the demographics of my listeners. Typically Caucasian males, Caucasian females, over age 50. We have a lot of younger listeners. Men and women who have had careers, their chosen careers, typically various levels of success, which they may or may not still be working in, with children, possibly adult children, possibly grandchildren. I do private consultations. I do speaking engagements. If you want me to come to your community, just go to my website. There on the right side, you'll see professional consultations and keynote presentations. Get the details there. We have my radio show meetup this evening in Rolla, Missouri. We'll be meeting at the Benton Square restaurant there in Rolla. We meet for dinner at 5 p.m. We go upstairs to the third floor meeting room at 6 p.m. for the meeting. You do not need to buy dinner to attend. It's free and open to the public. It's a fun event. We've been doing this now for a number of years, and something I'll always look forward to. The first Thursday of pretty much every month, weather allowing and the restaurant being open. Sometimes the restaurant's closed. It changed hands, and they changed the name of it. It's a Italian restaurant now. But the Benton Square Spa is still called the Benton Square Spa. That's no longer called the Benton Square Restaurant, but it's a century-old 3-story brick schoolhouse. It's been extensively rehabbed and very nice place, by the way. And you can get a meal at a reasonable price. And it's a thoroughly enjoyable event, and I hope if you got the time, you can come by this evening. Take responsibility. If nobody else in your family is doing it, then do it yourself. If you're getting resistance from your spouse, do it anyway. Many spouses are resistant to spending family resources being time and money, to anything involving preparedness. Doing these consultations since 1977, I did my first one 40 years ago this summer. A couple flew out from Las Vegas for their private consultation with me here. Doing it for 40 years, I expect that frequently one spouse or the other doesn't want to even hear about it. It's a tough place to be. And it varies from couple to couple. If both spouses are on the same page, that's wonderful. It makes things go a lot smoother, obviously. Do what you can. If you got a resistant spouse, attempt the following. Characterize what you want to do as just another form of insurance. We have homeowners insurance, life insurance, automobile insurance. This is another form of insurance. The difference being, instead of a year's worth of canceled checks, you've got a year's worth of food that can be consumed. Instead of a year's worth of canceled checks, you have garden seeds. Instead of a year's worth of canceled checks, you've got water filters. We got a caller on hold here where it's still very early in the morning. Dan in Hawaii. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, John. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Water filters, yeah, that's very important, I think. And having spare filters. And, I was,
right.
I know you've mentioned salt several times on the program. I was thinking about, in terms of trade in the future, gold, silver, things like that, copper, that's all good, but I think that would come into being later on.
You're right.
Perhaps
it
much
would.
later on.
It would. You're right. It would.
Yeah. So in the interim, the salt might turn out to be one of the prime trading elements, I would think. And so I'm thinking in terms of dispersion, how you would get it out to folks, because what we're talking about here is a new form of trade until later on. What I thought is if you get typing paper, are you familiar with what origami is, John?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a Japanese art form involving making figures out of paper, right?
That's correct. Now, there's a origami configuration in paper where you can actually make an envelope. And I used to know how to do it, and I'm going to get on the Internet, I guess, and find out. But if you buy typing paper, sometimes you can get that stack of 500 sheets for very cheap.
You can. You want to hold on through the break here, Dan?
Sure.
We got a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 7th of December. Dan, let's continue with your story here. Dan? Is Dan still there? I'm not hearing anything. Okay. Well, Dan, if you want to come back with us, just let my engineer know. Okay. Preparedness. It's become pretty mainstream the last 10 or 12 years. Back when I got started in 1977, it was relegated to the back pages of some magazines, farms magazines, publications like that, Mother Earth News. You'd see listings for books for sale that would help you understand that, and things of that nature. Dan, are you back here now?
I'm back, John. I guess we got cut off.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mother Earth News, I missed that. And Foxfire.
Yep.
Anyway, about salt. Using that typing paper, if you split that paper in half, standard typing paper, that might be an ideal instrument to disperse that salt in. And,
to make an envelope, you mean, to package it up in?
Yeah, because ideally, in anything like that, you don't want to start out just having been in merchandising. You don't want to start out selling large items, because invariably you'll sell too much for too little, and you'll cheat yourself. Better to start out on the small side and work up. in terms of trade.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And another option would be you can get these really small Ziplocs.
Right.
Very small. That might be a good instrument to
Yeah, well, I think I'd do that before I try to fabricate envelopes out of typing paper. And Ziploc bags right now are cheap and plentiful. And if you find an industrial supplier where you can get them by the case, you'd be good to go, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Go wholesale on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Anything else, Dan?
No, I guess that's about it, John. Thank you.
We appreciate the call. Aloha. Okay. This talk radio at its best. The listeners learn from me. We learn from the listeners. Everybody learns from each other. Salt is not optional. I said this several times this morning. I'm going to repeat myself. Human beings cannot live without salt. I got your attention? You can't. Human bodies, human beings must have salt to survive. It's not optional. It is not optional. And they put iodine in salt for a reason. That's because people away from these oceans aren't consuming any seafood. They're not getting iodine in their diet. And you need iodized salt for health reasons. Really, sincerely, you do. So it's a great way to stock up a tremendous amount of value for not much money, storing up salt. And I like Dan's recommendation of getting a supply of small Ziploc bags. You could sell it if you had a scale, a mechanical scale, because EMP might knock out an electronic scale. A mechanical scale, you could weigh out the salt in the Ziploc bag for people and sell it right there, weigh it out in front of them so they can see they're getting a fair measure. Selling it by the ounce would be a smart thing to do. And if you're selling salt by the ounce, a quarter ton, 500 pounds, would be a lot of sales. Let's see. 16 times 500, that's how many portions you would get at 1 ounce per portion. That could be a nice little business that would carry you for a period of time. Of course, half a ton or a ton of salt really doesn't cost all that much money, quite frankly. And it could be a business that will help you achieve your goals in a long-term grid-down situation and helps a lot of thousands of people, hundreds if not thousands of people, be healthy because they have access to iodized salt because of your little home business. That would be a smart thing to do. We like to have win-win situations, don't we? And that would definitely be a win-win situation to have a home business selling iodized salt by the ounce. And barter systems will pop up relatively quickly. A lot of the old-timers that were young adults or even children during the Great Depression here in the Ozark, we're quickly losing them. There's the younger ones are now 90 plus years old, and we're losing a lot of them. But I grew up listening to the stories about one attorney I knew. He would get walnuts for legal fees, maybe rabbits or squirrels as legal fees. Now, I have neighbors right now that routinely do barter exchanges of eggs, milk, and we're talking organic milk. And we have a break. Stay tuned.
By going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Okay, we are back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore on Thursday, the 7th day of December. My website is thelibertyman.com. If you haven't been there, check it out. You can spend a lot of time there. My webmaster, myself, we go to a lot of trouble making sure that we find information that is valuable to you, that will help you to understand the world we live in. Seriously, a lot there. Some of the new stuff under special videos there. Got Master Sergeant Roy Benavides. I got to have lunch with Roy. He got together with some of the Special Forces guys in St. Louis after a speaking engagement. We were in a restaurant, 72 degrees, and he was just sweating profusely. The extensive injuries he suffered in Vietnam caused him to no longer have his body be able to regulate itself, the temperature. But he had no outward signs of the continuous pain he had from his numerous injuries he suffered prior to being awarded the Medal of Honor. And I was proud to meet this man and shake his hand and be able to share a meal with him. There's lots of other things there I think you may get a lot of good information from that will educate you and entertain you. Something that's really funny, well, I like to have a little humor. The Real Housewives of ISIS. I was hoping it would be a mini-series, but the BBC put this thing together, and it's just a hoot. And if you want to have a good chuckle, it is a lot of fun. Of course, also my website are energy cleaners. If you didn't hear the first hour, you need to listen to the first hour. Listen to Tony from North Dakota, his testimonial. It's very powerful stuff. We focus on arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, and getting a great night's sleep. Those are the things we focus on publicly. Chances are you or somebody you know has arthritis pain, or joint pain, or back pain, or not getting a great night's sleep. Chances are you know somebody like that. Maybe it's you. I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. I'm considering extending that to 90 days. It's not going to cause me any harm because I know people aren't going to let these things go once they get their hands on them. It's a marvelous healing device. Only $285 shipping included, 2 American zip codes. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. Yes, I really like PayPal. I use it myself all the time. MasterCard, Visa, checks can be sent to my address at thelibertyman.com. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads. We're a little behind right now. It's a busy season for both myself and the mattress pad factory distributor I work with up in Chicago. But I do have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. We're taking questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting. Call-in number is 800-313-9443. Most Americans, most of the time, if they're outdoors in the cold, when I say cold, below freezing, or severe cold where it gets in the teens and lower, they're either doing it for recreational purposes because they like to ski or maybe do some winter camping. But they're not out. Most Americans aren't outdoors for extended periods of time. The skiers are out there for anywhere from an hour to 2 or 3 hours, and they go inside to the lodge and have a great meal and some adult beverages. The campers, well, they're a hardier bunch, and they'll be out there 24 hours a day for as many days as they go camping. And that's as popular as camping is, camping in the wintertime is something that most campers don't participate in. I know I won't volunteer for it myself. I've done it. I've been on, it wasn't camping, it was military training, and I learned a lot. I did. And it's dealing with plus 10 in high humidity in the daytime and minus 10 in high humidity at night. It will change your attitude about winter. It will, seriously. And it needs to, and it will, because as I sometimes say, any fool can go out there and be miserable out in the bush. But it takes intelligence and planning and training to be out in the bush in those extreme temperatures and still be relatively comfortable. It is possible to do that, and I've done it. I know how to do it. Now, if I have to, I'll do it again. And you can also. You can also. It's a matter of, first of all, motivation. Are you motivated? Do you really want to have that skill of being able to be out in zero weather or lower 24 hours a day for days on end? Well, if you want to, and are motivated, you can figure it out. Now, in a grid down situation, where you have to be in the cold for extended periods of time, you do not want to go to REI for your outer garments. Seriously. What they sell is high quality outer garments for casual recreational use, camping and hiking and skiing and things like that. Casual recreational use. Those are the operative words. You're not going to see ranchers and farmers going to REI for their outer garments. Why? Because they won't last. That's why. They may be attractive, they may fit well, they may be nice and toasty, cozy, and warm, but they won't last in the kind of work that farmers and ranchers and construction workers do. They simply won't. No, you need to go shopping where the farmers and ranchers and construction workers go for their outer garments. Now, when it comes to hats, REI hats would be great. Gloves, not so much, depending on the activity you're doing. Underwear, absolutely. And I mention REI because, it's a nationwide chain. Bass Pro and Gander Mountain and others, they have similar equipment. You're going to have great state-of-the-art underwear, great state-of-the-art socks. Boots, well, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. I generally don't get my foot gear from those types of places like REI unless they carry Danner. I've mentioned Danner a couple of weeks ago, and in my opinion, for long-term use out in the bush, whether it's 110 degrees or 10 below, Danner boots is what I want on my feet. I think they're the best boots money can buy. You're going to spend $200-300, even more, on a good quality pair of Danner boots. Hey, suck it up, bite the bullet, and spend the money. Good quality foot gear and merino wool socks that go with them, in my opinion, is not optional. Let's talk about merino wool. I've discovered merino wool, it's been, I'm going to say about 12 years ago. I bought my first half dozen pairs of merino wool socks, which I'm still using. They're still in my daily cycle of wearing them and washing them, believe it or not, after 10 or 12 years. A little hint from my wife, Dr. Moore. She knows more about doing laundry than I'll ever know. Turn your socks inside out when you launder them. You'll get a better result in terms of how clean they get and longevity, both. I know it takes a couple of minutes to do that, but it's not a big deal. Now, merino wool is a special kind of wool. The fibers are longer than other types of wool. Therefore, for most people, most of the time, the wool is not itchy and scratchy. I wear my merino wool socks year-round. It doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees or 10 below. I wear my merino wool socks year-round. And like most American adults, I wear cotton socks in the warm weather and warmer, thicker, maybe wool socks in the winter. The cotton socks, for decades as I wore them in the summertime, whether it's for recreation or for work, within an hour or two in the hot weather, my feet would get wet from sweat and be kind of cool and damp and clammy all day long because of the cotton socks. With merino wool socks, the dampness is taken away from my foot into the sock, and it's comfortable. It's not hot. And this may be counterintuitive. But the merino wool socks, at least for me, you might be different, but this has been my experience, that I'm perfectly comfortable wearing merino wool socks when it's 100 degrees. I am, seriously. Most likely you'll find the same thing for yourself. You can also find merino wool underwear, long underwear, tops and bottoms. It will do the same thing. Now, I'm not going to wear merino wool underwear in the summertime. Now, the old timers did. Maybe they had a whole different makeup of their body temperature regulation than we do now. But they wore long underwear year-round. And quite frankly, I haven't tried it. I don't have merino wool underwear. I would like to get some, but it hasn't been a priority. I have other underwear that serves me pretty well. But I'd be interested in hearing from somebody who wears merino wool underwear in the warm weather or even the hot weather and getting a report. I know the filmmakers, the Hollywood filmmakers, for decades have shown the cowboys in the warm weather wearing long underwear. And I always thought, even as a boy, I thought, well, look at that. They're out there out west, it's hot weather, and these cowboys are wearing long underwear. It was a funny scene where the cowboy has to jump out of bed in his long underwear or something like that. But the filmmakers frequently are striving to get authenticity in their films, and they do their research and do their homework to get as authentic as they can. And apparently that's the way it was a century ago. Maybe even closer in time than that, I don't know. Something worth looking into. Good quality footgear, good quality gloves. Cheap stuff doesn't last, by the way. Cheap gloves will fall apart on you. I do use inexpensive leather work gloves, and I get a 6-pack or an 8-pack at a very reasonable price from Harbor Freight. And one of the things about work gloves is no matter what quality they are, they're going to get beat up and get damaged. That's just the nature of work gloves. Their purpose is to protect your hands from damage. I was working on this antenna project with one of my neighbors the other day. He says, John, I don't like wearing work gloves. And I said, well, I do things I don't like all the time. I wear them to protect my hands. I'm working. Obviously, if you're working with small parts and certain tools, you have to take the gloves off to get the dexterity you need to manipulate small parts and certain tools. But I do wear my leather work gloves a lot outside. I keep them stuck in my back pocket. I put them on and take them off as necessary to protect my hands from damage. It's routine to see people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and older here missing a digit here in the Ozarks. Men and women both, by the way, from various accidents happen around their farms and ranches. Losing a digit is not all that uncommon around here. Farm equipment, working with farm equipment is dangerous. I know that from personal experience, putting a brush hog on a tractor, or taking it off, putting a grading blade on the tractor, or taking it off, it's dangerous because you're working with steel and hydraulics, a lot of weight, and it's real easy to have a serious injury very quickly. Chainsaws, oh my goodness, I wear chaps I didn't grow up using a chainsaw. I was probably 30 years old before I ever touched a chainsaw. I wear Kevlar chaps. I got them a military surplus from Sportsman's Guide at a very reasonable price. And you can see the patches I've placed on there from where the chainsaw, if I hadn't had the chaps on, would have went into my legs. I also wear a helmet with a face guard and earmuffs when I use that kind of equipment, both line trimmers and chainsaws. And of course I wear gloves and eye protection as well. Most men out here don't. They don't wear a helmet, eye protection, face protection, Kevlar chaps. They simply don't. And most of the men in my neighborhood have hearing loss as a consequence of using that kind of equipment for decades. And it's just expected that you'll have hearing loss if you live in the Ozarks and live the lifestyle that these men do out here on these farms and ranches. It's not necessary. I just keep the helmet with the hearing protection built in right next to the chainsaw and the chaps. Everything's all together. And when it comes time for me to get the chainsaw out, I put on my protective gear, leather boots, Kevlar chaps, helmet with face shield, and I wear the face shield stops the big stuff, not the little stuff. So I wear the safety glasses in addition to the face shield, and of course the earmuffs are built into the helmet. And I get out there and I'll go through a tank or two of fuel and cut whatever needs to be cut. I was working with my friend Ron the other day. We had the chainsaws out working on the range, on our rifle pistol range, to clear out some brush that had grown up. Around my place, we have in many locations around our 45 acres here, unlimited water, unlimited sunshine. And another friend of mine, he refers to it in the summertime as Missouri jungle. The speed at which stuff grows around here is breathtaking. If you clear a patch of ground and don't pay attention to it for 2 or 3 years, it's grown up tremendously. After 8 or 10 years, it looks like no European has ever been there before. It gets that thick. I mean, it's just amazing. It is, and that's just the nature of where we live. Unlimited water, unlimited sunshine. These creek bottoms, yeah, they grow up really fast. We were real enthusiastic and cleared them all out about 10 years ago. You can't tell we're ever in that creek now. The trees are 6 and 8 inches thick in some places. Here's a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, 7th day of December. I would dearly love to see the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, do a press conference beginning with showing the members of the press a video clip of Building 7 collapsing into its own foundation, its own footprint. I would love to see him do that. He knows. Of course he knows that what happened on the 11th day of September 2001 is not what the federal government of the United States claims. Of course he knows. He knows that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation is complicit in multiple felonies. And I believe that he will be going after the Clinton Foundation and Hillary and Bill Clinton both. These things need to happen. They really do. It's an open secret that what happened on September 11, 2001 is not what the federal government claims, in the 9/11 Commission report, which I have a copy of, by the way, which doesn't even mention Building 7. Doesn't even mention it. Donald Trump has scared the New World Order, as well he should. He's a genuine patriot, doing the right things for the right reason. People trying to say, I was watching a guy say, he became president to make contacts to further his business interests. Excuse me? Oh, come on. Come on. That's so far-fetched. It doesn't even come close to having any resemblance to reality. And people do believe that, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I love this president. He's a breath of fresh air. Incrementally, this man is taking it apart, bit by bit, day by day, behind the scenes. These tweets and so forth, that's by design, to distract the media. Donald Trump's a media person. He understands how the media works, and his staff knows too. They know how to keep them distracted with silliness, such as which football players are on a knee and which ones aren't. They know how to do that. Distracting the mass media away from what they're really doing in the Oval Office, incrementally dismantling what's happened since the first George Bush got elected president. So we got 2 George Bushes, Clinton, and Obama administrations. Bad legislative actions that they took that's being dismantled incrementally. New World Order knows that they're on a short opportunity here. The window's closing. The military will be rebuilt. If they don't act quickly, Donald Trump will save this country. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to get your preparations squared away, because they know they have to act quickly to stop this man before he makes America great again. Just about out of time. Tomorrow we should have Tom Berryhill with us talking about emergency communications. The first hour, second hour, we'll have Dr. Myers. In the meantime, get medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms, ammunition, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day, and God bless America.